scheduled podcast programming.
Right, should we move on?
Sure,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's move on to this week's guest.
Yes.
Who you might have gathered is Alan Rickman. Yes, it is. Yes. It's bloody well Alan Rickman, who, of course, is one of our finest actors. He started the screen career with a bang by creating one of the greatest villains in movie history, the endlessly quotable Hans Gruber in Die Hard. And he's parlayed that into a brilliant movie career in the likes of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the Harry Potter series, where he was Severus Snape, and Love Actually. He also has one of the top 10 voices in movies. That's a fact. You can look that up. It's on Wikipedia. He returns to the director's chair this week with A Little Chaos, his first film in years, a tale of two gardeners in the court of Louis XIV in the Palace of Versailles. Rickman dropped by this week and he spoke to the brothers Dissimilian, Phil and Nick, thus ensuring my eternal jealousy, hatred of him, and a possible campaign against him later on that they will not see coming. Do enjoy the interview. I know I will.
Do like YouTube things, and I did a couple of things, and somebody said, "Oh, did you know blah blah had gone viral?" And you go, "What?" I did this thing with me in slow motion drinking a cup of tea for a serious artist in New York, and they whipped it out of it, and it had like millions of hits. All I'm doing is drinking a cup of tea.
What kind of tea was it? This is a special...
It was a tea bag in a cup, but it's part of a 3-hour installation that was 80 feet wide on the side of Lincoln Center.
Oh, wow.
And they just took this one out and put it with some music.
Wow. Was the whole thing you drinking
If you have a moment where you've got nothing better to do, it's just called Alan Rickman as a cup of tea.
That's true, what I'm doing straight after this.
It's a rare joy and pleasure to be joined on the Empire podcast by Alan Rickman. On this, it's probably the nicest day of the year, and here you are.
I know, we're buried
in the the guts, I guess, of Golden Square.
This is how you spend your life.
I usually like to be at least 2 levels down from here, if possible, where it's a bit danker. But it's not ideal, is it? Is this good growing weather? Because obviously you made a film about sort of gardens. Is this a perfect day for things
You're asking the wrong person, except that we do have a little garden at the back of our house. And I look out of the window and go, oh, this is spring, because we have a tree in the corner of this courtyard that has little white flowers, and they're out.
It's like an alarm clock in tree form.
Do you know what type of tree that is?
No.
Okay.
It's a tall, thin tree.
We have all these really complex gardening questions, which we're now going to have to cross out.
Yeah, scrub them out.
I had this idea that maybe if Alan Rickman was offered a plot at the Chelsea Flower Show, you'd have some kind of, I don't know, sort of vision for what that might look like. But
no, I might. I just would have to get a gardening expert to do the plants. But I like going to gardens and being surrounded by plants.
We have many questions about your new film, A Little Chaos, which we touched on, obviously. It's about gardening at the beginning of the Palace of Versailles. And I guess the first question was for you, really, is just kind of what the genesis of this was. What was the kind of the first moment that it grabbed you?
The script dropped through my letterbox quite a long time ago now, from Alison Deegan, and it was her first screenplay, and much as I immediately loved it, I wasn't free to direct it because I was so involved with Harry Potter at that time. Only 3 books had been written, so I didn't know that I was not going to be free to direct a film for quite a while, because, you need more than a year to be able to say, yeah, I'll direct a film. And so once Potter had got itself established as a kind of working process, I knew that I was there for 7 weeks every year. But I was directing elsewhere in the theatre, so it stayed with me, and Alison didn't take it away from me. And it was, I have an art school background and a design background before I started acting, and the images jumped off the page, and it was just a case of they wouldn't go away, and so then I guess you know that you're going to have to direct it. By the time we got to the point of making the movie and funding it and me being free, Kate Winslet was the right age.
Having already directed one film, The Winter Guest, did you look at the scripts, though, and in the back of your mind say there's a lot of location work and this is going to cause a lot of...
It's a nightmare. You read it and you go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to fight to do this, and most of it is going to be a nightmare. But it wasn't even the backdrop of it that was fascinating me. It was the central relationship and the fact that the backdrop gave it a context that might be set in 17th century France, but is actually totally modern. And I'm not really interested in a period story that's just period, you know. It's like you might as well be directing biscuit tins.
Alan Rickman's Hobnobs movie, I would pay to see.
Go with the cup of tea.
It's got to have some content, as far as I'm concerned. It's got to have some relevance and to now, or you got to think about now a bit. And I hope that that's what this film does.
You had a limited budget, but you mount a kind of mini Titanic where Kate Winslet falls into a weir, I believe, and almost drowns. What was that scene like to do? It looked tough to pull off, potentially.
Very tough, because like all of it, you know, there's that, and then there's a carriage crash, and then there's a huge dance number at the end, never mind the more intimate scenes, which also take a lot of time and attention. And you've got to somehow chop it all up and divide it into 8 weeks of shooting, which really, honestly, isn't enough. So you know when you're doing the Kate falls in the weir scene that it's got to be done that night.
Yeah.
So it's through the night. And Kate, by that time, was, I think, 14 weeks pregnant. So
wow.
You're also watching with your fingers crossed.
You found out she was pregnant during the shoot. Is that right? Yeah.
How did she tell you about the news? How did she break the news to you?
With those well-known words, Alan, sit down for a minute.
Was there a lot of other times where people said that to you during the movie?
No, everybody was on their feet, very much on their feet. There wasn't much sitting down going on this film, but that was one moment where you go, oh my God, and do a bit of instant maths. You go, okay.
Get the tape measure out.
2 weeks into shooting. She's just said she's 9 weeks pregnant. So by the time we finish, she's going to be 15 weeks pregnant. That's quite a lot. You know, she's wearing a corset.
Did Doing a Little Chaos bring to mind Dangerous Liaisons at all, which is another French kind of period thing which you did on stage back in the mid-80s?
Yeah, it's a different period, but, you know, you're reminded of the fact, it's a bit like I was saying, that there's manners and then there's clothes, and clothes actually dictate an awful lot about how you behave. You don't relax in those clothes. They're designed so that when you are standing properly, every bit of your body is shown to its best advantage. You know, Louis XIV invented wigs because he went bald.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you rock a mighty wig on stage back in the 80s?
I did not wear a wig for that, because that was it was a bit. There was a sort of a parallel. We had all sorts of historical inaccuracies in that, and we have historical inaccuracies deliberately so in A Little Chaos. But you know, in Liaison Dangereuse, it would have been impossible because it was 3 hours of and ending up with a sword fight. You don't want to be weak on your head.
No,
not
I just had a lot more hair.
Going all right.
And the movie Dangerous Liaisons came out 3 years after you did it. Was that something you would have liked to have done? John Malkovich.
I think I was shooting Die Hard by then, so I'd moved on, they'd moved on, and it would have been very difficult to do it if Lindsay Duncan hadn't done it. So you just think, oh well, said goodbye.
I had a quote from one of your castmates from the play, Juliet Stevenson. I don't know if you've heard this.
From Liaison? Because we've done a lot together.
I know, you guys have worked several times. Her quote is, I'm not sure if you've heard this, she once described you as a cross between a panther and a camel.
I haven't heard that one before.
Would you agree? I think she was referring to your endurance in terms of being a camel rather than you having a hump or anything.
Well, Juliet's good with words. It's just, I don't know. I'd have to now, of course, all I'm doing is thinking, and I'm not going to be tested on it. How would I describe her?
That's the next question.
Are there any animals that come to mind?
Well, I bet she had time to think about that one.
That says to me that you're swift and graceful, and you can cross sandy land masses, which I think is the ultimate compliment.
Oh, well, one of them you can ride, and the other one you can't.
So not easily.
There we go. Just what you should know.
Thank you. I'll be testing her on that.
A couple of years back, I saw you at Somerset House introducing a screening of Die Hard.
Oh yeah, that was thrilling.
Did you stay and watch the film? Is that a film that you have fondness for, or are you tired of people bringing it up?
No, it means a lot to people, and it's I think it's an example of the days when they used to make movies like that had a script.
Very good one.
And that's why maybe it's lasted, and it's a shame not too many people have learnt that lesson, you know, and also it was pre-special effects, so there's a lot of old-fashioned values in it. It's a really good, witty, strong script, and it's brilliantly shot. I had no idea at the time. It was the first film I'd ever made, so I was a complete innocent.
We started a huge wave of Die Hard Honor this, Die Hard Honor that entire thing. I mean, talking of the script, is it true that one of your key scenes was invented on the spot, which is the scene where you pretend to be American?
Well, it wasn't invented on the spot. I think there are many stories flying around, and I'm not sure who claims ownership of them, but the truth of the matter is that when I was sitting and talking about the character, I said, I was being fitted for all this terrorist gear, and I said, why would I be wearing this stuff when, because I could see all the actors who were going to be playing my henchmen. I said, when they are, and look at the size of them. So why not put me in a suit? And if I was in a suit, then perhaps there could be a scene where Bruce Willis and I meet each other and I pretend to be one of the hostages. That is how it happened.
Yeah.
Then I didn't know what they were going to do with that. And then I went back to England, and then I came back to start shooting, and they handed me some pages of a script. And they'd obviously done a lot of work and sat down and put this into the film.
It's a great scene. I would say, were you originally in a leather jacket or something? Did you have a costume?
Well, I tried those things on, and I was looking stupid next to
It's hard to imagine.
hulks. You know, it was clearly... I was playing somebody who does not get his hands dirty. Yeah. I only need to go at it like from a theatre basis, which is, you know, what did I have for breakfast? What do I know? And so this guy's hired people to get his hands dirty, so why don't we keep his hands very, very clean?
Yeah. There's one scene I wanted to, been dying to ask you about. I interviewed John McTiernan at the beginning of last year, and he talked about shooting the sequence, your death sequence, where you plummet downwards, and he said that he did the stunt first to kind of show to you that it was safe. Just wondering what your memories of doing that, because it's one of the most iconic shots.
He may be imagining that scenario.
Okay. But it's an amazing...
He certainly did not do it.
Okay.
No,
all right.
I trained from 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, etc., up to whatever it was, 40 feet.
And how many takes?
3, I think, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was my very last shot on the film. Now I wonder why.
We've lost Alan. It's okay. We've finished. Alan. Yeah.
Well, but what films do people want to come and talk to you about the most in the street? And people come and quote
all of them. You know, it's very. You never know. Well, not all of them. Some of them have so little distribution. People are still hungry to see them, I think. But depends on the person. You know, there's people to whom you've talked about truly, madly, deeply. There's people who want to talk about Sense and Sensibility. There's people who want to talk about Bottle Shock or Snow Cake or, you know, anybody who's got an autistic child. Snow Cake's a very important film to them.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a very special expression on a child's face when because they don't always, thank God, recognize me, but when it's pointed out to them, you realize that you're connected to the inside of their head on some level, and you watch a child trying to figure this out because, wait a minute, that character lives in my imagination, and now you're telling me that person's... It's a weird thing you can watch happening inside a child's mind.
It's the Wizard of Oz moment, I guess, when the curtain goes back for them.
Probably.
Suddenly think,
it's a bit like when you're at school, and I remember in art class, the disappointment, in a way, when the teacher said the sky isn't a blue stripe across the top of the page.
So what's next then?
I don't know. I've signed on to do a movie in July, which is set in Victorian England, and meanwhile, I have the next Alice in Wonderland coming out, and after that, I think, or before that, is a film called Eye in the Sky with Helen Mirren and Aaron Paul, which is about, actually it was all over the news this morning, the use of drones against terrorism.
Have you seen Breaking Bad?
I'm halfway through the first season.
Oh, you're on the
box.
You've got the box set.
I'm so behind.
What do you make of it?
I wasn't getting it at the beginning, and then suddenly I wanted to know, now what? And when you're only on that first season, so I know the answer, but you're watching it and thinking, how the hell are they going to make this last?
Yeah.
But I guess they do.
Is that something everyone you know is telling you, you have to watch this, you have to watch this, it's brilliant?
Yeah. And I'm not very up on, you see, this is where the world has changed. Television watching and all over cable channels, and you know, there's enough hours in the day. There's too many box sets, not enough hours.
There's an amazing variety of stuff that you do, comedy and voiceover and all kinds of stuff. I wanted to ask you about the new music video by the band Texas, which you pop up in and sing a little.
One word, I think I sing.
I think you have a more than one.
Do I?
Yeah. Where did that come from? Because that's your second music video with Texas.
It comes from Charlene Spiteri ringing you up and saying, would you do this?
Yeah.
And the first time round was, would you come and dance a tango with me in a petrol station? You go, well, why not? And I really like her, and she's a good friend, and then, you know, a bunch of years later she asked me to do another one.
Did you become friends after the first music video, or did you know each other?
I didn't know her, no, but you'll become friends very quickly if you dance the tango.
The petrol station.
Music is sort of a recurring motif in your career as well, I suppose, in terms of, you know, Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd, you sing, Truly Madly Deeply, you do some singing. I've seen a video on YouTube of you singing a song in French. Is it true that you were linked, or you were offered, a Frank Sinatra biopic at one point in your earlier career? And what was the story behind that? Who was the director?
Well, somebody was insane. Well,
I'm not agreeing. I'm just.
It's at a time in your life where people go, "Who's this? This person's interesting. Let's fling any old script at them." I have no idea whether it was a good script. It was just the notion of me playing Frank Sinatra that would just be no.
Straight away,
without even thinking.
No,
about it, yeah.
Was that the strangest thing that you were sent, or the thing that you felt
that was pretty high up there?
Do you like Sinatra though?
He's brilliant.
Got his...
Yeah, because I watched him a bit the other day on Sky Arts. Is a good channel for coming across strange old bits of music. You know, it was a Moody Blues concert the other day, and then Nina Simone, and then there was a bit of Sinatra. You know, it's grainy black and white footage, but still in all, you realise that guy with that unbelievable voice is really singing the words. You know, every bit of his phrasing is about what he's saying, not the note he's hitting. And that's a good lesson.
Sorry, this is a little bit scattershot, but I have to ask about one of my favourite performances of yours, which is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And I read a quote from you saying that you based the Sheriff of Nottingham on a rock guitarist.
Well, the look
was...
I thought he should be a bit of a rock guitarist, yeah. So, me and the hair and makeup department, I seem to remember we put, well, it wasn't my idea, it was theirs, had very black hair, but they put some dark blue in it. And it's those sort of details, a bit like when I did Liaison Dangereuse, and Bob Crowley put us, because it was one set but multi-locational, and you had to kind of persuade people without moving a stick of furniture that you were going from one place to another. Therefore, it helped that we were all in the same colour all night long. We're all in white in that play. And I was playing somebody with such a complicated psyche that I said, I need something dark. And so I used to tie, with Bob Crowley's permission, a piece of black ribbon around one wrist. So I just had that essence to work with. And with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, it was sort of helpful to have a sense of somewhere rock guitarist, I suppose, swagger.
Roger Ebert wrote at the time that you played the role like David Letterman. I have no idea what that means. I take it that wasn't in your mind.
I like David Letterman. I'm not quite sure what the parallel is, although I suppose he's got a kind of, he's a bit cheeky, isn't he, with the way he treats people. You know, I'd be quite scared to go on his show.
It looks like he's enjoying himself.
Yeah, He does, I think, and he's not reverential, and that's healthy.
That was the summer of Bryan Adams. Everything I do. I wonder if you managed to avoid that, because I seem to be in the charts.
How could you? It was there for
a
16
million
weeks,
years. Yeah,
it? But it was written by a great friend of mine, Michael Kamen, sadly no longer with us, and he also wrote the music for The Winter Guest. So, you know, every penny his family earns, I'm happy for.
I've got to let you go in a moment. I have a question that's kind of from left field, but obviously the Alan Rickman impressions are manifold out there on the internet. I just wondered, Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Hiddleston have a rivalry. Who you think is the best?
As you probably know only too well, you wouldn't recognise your own voice if you heard it, particularly because I don't know what happens to sound waves and things, but it doesn't sound like what I hear when I hear it played back. And that must be a sign of desperation, to sit and listen to other people impersonating you. That would be a sad life.
Are you an impressionist yourself? Kevin Spacey famously just reels them off when you're talking to him.
No, I don't know if you've ever heard the tape of Anthony Hopkins. Nobody can beat that. You just think if anybody could outdo him, he's brilliant.
Who does he do?
Everybody, you know. He made a private tape, if you can get a hold of it. It's brilliant. Olivier, you know, all the people he grew up with.
I'm going to go check YouTube straight after this.
I don't think he's put it on YouTube. Michael Caine does
Gary Oldman is lethal as well. If you ever get an interview with him, lethal.
Does he do a Rickman?
Probably.
You didn't dare.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us in the Empire
Thank you
Podcast.
very much.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks.
How was he, Phil?
He was superb.
Yeah.
What a pleasure and a privilege to be able to spend time with
Me,
Alan
I know, but what was Alan
with
Rickman?
Alan Rickman.
Did he sound like Alan Rickman?
Mostly,
Yeah.
yes. He did mostly sound like Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Yeah. He I don't know. He was a little daunting to be